You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.
After centuries of misguidance caused by...
Good evening. Here in the studio, I really just can't tell what is going on, but I hope you all are connecting on this special exclusive show this afternoon, this morning, this night, because we're connecting Africans at home and abroad. And tonight we have a very special, wonderful, powerful queen out there, and her topic is going to be on women in leadership. I mean, there's been a lot of gender conversations, people in leadership, governance, the need for good governance, politics, justice, injustice as well. When we talk about the need for good governance, you know, the whole world looks at Africa and the whole world looks at Africans in the diaspora. So, but this special queen, Sister Patricia, is going to educate us on her functions and what she thinks the role of women in particular positions, in leadership positions, for instance, has a key role to play, particularly connecting back home and on the continent and in the diaspora. So please welcome with me our sister here from St. Martin's. I don't know whether she's actually working there or working in the United States, or how, you know, where she is. She will tell us everything about herself, her work, her mission, her purpose, and actually have a conversation from a point of view of a woman that has been in exceptional functions, you know, in different leadership positions, be it herself or be it her interaction with other women in the same service. So today, please join me live as we go. We add a sister into this conversation. Please, I want to remind all of you that I know that, you know, there's some destinations that have not been connected to the stream right now. As I can see, I don't know where the problem is coming from, but I'm welcoming all of you that are already joining the stream. As you see, our sister is sitting right, beautiful, powerful queen. When I posted, everybody was just like, "Oh, is she a congresswoman?" You know, yeah, she looks, I mean, so tough, so powerful. When we see our sisters in the military, in positions of captain, and particularly her uniform, it's really like, wow, this is it. Good evening and welcome to the show, Sister Patricia. Welcome to Pan-African Daily.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doc.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we just reached out to you. That was last week, and you suddenly just like, yes, I'm available, because this topic is so important that we all come together, we educate ourselves, that we connect, we share our perspectives and our opinion. You did not hesitate, you know, like some will say, let me look into my calendar, let me check and stuff. You just went on board. So can you just tell us a little bit about you, introduce your names? Even when I see HELLIGER, how do the guests get to pronounce your name so well? Where are you connecting from? What is your function? What is it that we expect to hear from you today? Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, so I was born on the island of St. Martin. The HELLIGER is actually Dutch. I was born on the French side of St. Martin, and I left St. Martin at a very young age. My mom migrated to the US with my brother, so there was two of us. So I was educated really in the United States, and I continued my career. And one of the things you mentioned, you said that I didn't hesitate to to get the invite was because I'm actually retired. I've been a law enforcement officer for 22 years, and I became the first Black woman to have the position of a captain. That rank is a very high rank within the police department in New Haven, Connecticut. So I made history by becoming the first Black woman to ever hold that position, and I think the 500 years of the department existence.
Wonderful. I mean, I just get this straight in. I mean, you became the first Black woman that held the position of a captain in the city of Connecticut. Am I correct?
Yes, in Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut. I was promoted in 2018 on YouTube. Very easy to Google me to see the first Black female captain in New Haven. And my video sort of went all, worldwide because of that accomplishment. So after I retired, I'm sorry, in 2016, I got promoted. I retired in 2018. So I've been trying to get into other things, but I realized everything brings me back to my law enforcement background for 22 years. I also currently host a program called Teen Talk on SOS Radio in St. Martin, so we could address the teens, younger people, especially girls and young women in our community, and to empower them.
Wonderful. So can you describe the role of your position? What as a captain in that position? Was it a captain in the military, in the police, or in the Air Force? What
It was a
actually
police
was your position?
in the police department. It's the city of New Haven, which is also Hartford. Yale University, which is world known. So it's within that community. It's New Haven, and I was in the police department. I went up the ranks. For those who are in law enforcement, police department know that you don't automatically become a captain. You have to go through different processes of exams, and it is a level. So becoming a captain is the highest rank that I could have gotten in that police department.
Wow. I mean, today we see Black women in Congress and stuff like. But I can imagine before this period, nothing like that. I mean, how excellent came to power. It was just like wow. But particularly in the police as a captain, I mean, how did you really anticipate to be there, to be a captain, or with your qualification and your competence and everything, you just rose up to that position?
Well, yes, it's a tested position. You have to compete against all your other colleagues and promoted according to how you score. And also it comes with experience. I mean, I was on the department for 20 years. And when I became the captain, I was actually the first Black woman to reach that rank, which is a huge accomplishment. For those who are in law enforcement know that it's not easy to be able to get to that rank. So it was very competitive, but the position of law enforcement was something I always enjoyed. I enjoyed working with the community. I was an asset. Women are assets in law enforcement. So I do my best to make sure to encourage women, especially women of color, to become law enforcement officers because it's so needed.
Sister Patricia, today is just an introduction show, because what you are telling me right now, I mean, depending on your availability and time, the process of really educating ourselves on this, particularly this position here in America, to talk about the list. I mean, in Germany, in Europe, where I am, I've never seen a Black woman in the police, talk less of, I mean, in the UK, we see some, Africans, but it's not given. And because the challenge, particularly in this leadership position, is not just like a CEO of a company or in a non-profit organization or some other, corporate. This is a system. This is a big measure. What were the challenges that you could say, or this were the takeovers, these were the challenges that I found myself first like a woman and then in that position?
Well, it came on me. First of all, a lot of people ask me, how did I get into law enforcement? I got into law enforcement at a pretty late time in my age. I actually was a flight attendant with Pan American Airlines. So I'm probably dating myself. So, because Pan American Airlines has been out of business for years and years. But I was actually a flight attendant. I had no intention of going into law enforcement. So I kind of walked into this position after Pan Am went out of business. And the police department that New Haven, for example, police department, was offering a different way of policing. It was called community-based policing, where you actually work with the community. So I thought that would be a good idea to try something. And I love people. Being a flight attendant, I was always open with people and love traveling. So I thought this would be a new episode in my life. And I went into the academy. I loved the job. And I actually stayed there for 22 years, helping the community. And it was a fantastic career for me.
Sister, congratulations. To be honest with you, like, so then I'm shaking now. I'm really actually shaking. Like, who is this? I mean, sitting here in the studio with us. I want to welcome Sister Matamera, Sister Right as Novia. I mean, I'm telling you, we have a powerful queen, Sister Patricia HELLIGER, who has been in one of the top leadership positions in the world. Imagine being a captain and the head of a department of the police in Connecticut, as a first Black woman, an African American or African Caribbean American woman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is not heard of, isn't it? Says this is, I mean, the time of awakening that we begin to discover ourselves and we're connecting to the continent. We've heard a lot of injustices or stuffs going on, but today we want to talk about women in leadership position from the point of, just even colored women, African women in these kind of positions. And our sister queen here has taken her time off to actually educate us on this. And so please, I want to shower her with so much love. And if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll be as the show goes on. I know today is a very important match out there in Qatar, in FIFA. And most of our guests actually were like, why did you put this show at this time? And I'm like, no, we have to get our show going on, because all of them would bump in to rewatch, to re-educate themselves. But for us, it was very important to introduce you here, sister, because we'll be doing a lot of conversations and a lot of mentorship that you can actually mentor our women, empower us into taking positions like that. So what is it that we want to learn from you, from your experience as an African woman in such positions? What would you advise our women, our girls that are growing up, particularly in the continent, in the African communities, wherever we find ourselves, not to pull back, to embrace the courage and to move ahead? Over to you, sis.
Yes, it's so important that we empower our young girls to know that they can achieve anything they want. Because, for example, for those who knows about law enforcement and how difficult it is to be within that field, because that field is actually dominated by white males. So to have a female in a command position is not easy. But we have to actually empower our young women to understand that they can do anything that they want to do, and it doesn't really matter. But what I find is that we're lacking in the sense of empowering our girls to understand that they can be anything that they want to. So the position of becoming a captain in the police department and being the first Black woman, was quite a wide, what to say? The best way to describe it, it was this really very empowering, and it was actually humbling for me, because it wasn't something that I set myself to do. And since that once I became a police officer, I become a captain. And I also say it's also God's intervention to put me in a position where I could try to empower other young women to understand that they can do it. So one of the things too is that I believe highly in educating our young girls. I think that a lot of our younger women need to get into school. They need to be studying. Unfortunately, even here within the Caribbean, it seems like a lot of younger women are more into raising children at a very young age instead of really get into career and into school. Education is so important because I don't want people to believe that I just became a police officer. I am college educated. I also have a honorary doctorate degree. So during the time I was a police officer, I was also a very educated person. So it's not like put my uniform on and saying I'm going to be a police officer. So I believe education is something that we really need to emphasize with our young women. And one of the
Whew.
other things too that I think is so important is I think that they need the support. I think that we as elders, I consider myself an elder, need to be reaching out more. When you mentioned mentoring, I also in the police department have created and was part of a mentoring program at a very early stage in becoming a police officer. We were mentoring young girls within the community to become police officers. So the mentoringship and passing the baton is so very important. That's why I'm so thankful and thank you so much for inviting me on your program today because it's so important that we share with our young women our accomplishment as elders. They need to know that there are elders out there who have done it and that is willing to train and mentor them and pass a baton.
Wonderful. You are breaking, I am breaking. I don't know why the technique is just acting up today. When good things are always coming to us African people, you just see some kind of interruption. But anyway, we are good to go. Sister, uh, there's been a lot, particularly in the African American, anywhere, everywhere, where we find this position of police. People, I mean, we see it every day. And the brother just asked her, how are you being, as you being a black police officer, changing us dying by the cops? Like, right, from the outside, we see differently or we hear differently and it's manifested. But I can imagine you, it's not about color, it's not about discrimination, but it's a lot actually about this police brutality or killings and stuff like that, that people just like, even if I as a woman, it won't change anything. Is that correct? Or what would you want us to know about
No,
that?
I'd like us as people to and understand that unless we're there, and it's called serve and protect, and it's also sometimes a cultural thing. So it's important that we as Black people, African American, Caribbean American, be visible and also be within these departments and represent. Because oftentimes you find communities that have all white males or maybe white females in a community that don't know anything about. So it's so important for our presence to be there because my interaction with another African American or Black person would probably never be the same as a white male or white female. And sometimes our presence is definitely needed within law enforcement because oftentimes it's a matter of relating to the police department, the police officer. All right. So it's so disheartening though to know that a lot of people are thinking because we are victimized by police departments and police officers' behavior that we shouldn't be there in the police department. As a matter of fact, that's when we even need to be more present. So that's one of the other things too that's really, really important, that we understand that we need to be in law enforcement, representing our people, our culture, so people would understand. And it's a way too to be with our brothers and sisters in blue, so they understand that there's more than one culture. And when you're policing is not all about just the law, it's also being able to relate to people. And that's why I mentioned about community-based policing. And that was the thing that attracted me to New Haven Police Department, because we actually belong to the community. You know, we were set up in an area of community where everyone knew their personalized police officer. So it was a whole different way of policing for me.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm really into this, because you know, in the past, not even in the present today, there's some positions that women or young girls don't even think about it. Like this could be
Yes.
not just of earning money, but a representation, like you say. It's also a
Yes.
risk for you, like a woman of color, to find yourself in that kind of really hardcore decision making top positions, isn't it?
Mhm. Yes, it is. But you know, I can't tell you it doesn't go without the challenges, because oftentimes when you're in a field that is dominated mostly by white males, and your presence, and this could be communities and police departments that's never been around Black people or African Americans. And then there's some officers who will come into the police department who's never been in a community with minorities. It doesn't have to be Black, it also could be a brown community, a Hispanic community, don't have that presence. So it's so important that they understand too, and they are also, we all become brothers and sisters, and they understand that we have to police a community, but we also have to be part of that community and sort of culture. And culture is so important too, because I'm also an instructor for police officers on cultural awareness and diversity. So all of those things play into
Yes.
becoming a law enforcement officer. People think it's just like, I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on, especially now in the media, that's very negative on the police department. But there are also so many good police officers. It doesn't matter what race they are, white, Hispanic, Black officers who are out there doing such a fantastic job. And also,
Correct.
embracing communities. And like everything in life, you find one or two people who are not doing the right thing and give us a black eye. But I tell you, it's a field that I would love to have more Black females, women of color, becoming part of the law enforcement, because that's the way we protect each other. Yeah. So basically, that's how I see it. And to sit here and to say that it was very easy becoming a police captain, it's not. It had its challenges, but it's something that I have accomplished. And I'm just, like I said, I hope that I did enough that other women, coming behind me, will understand that it can be done. Nothing is impossible.
Absolutely, my queen. I'm just like happy, because I mean, when I came here, I've been here for 2 months for vacation. I mean, visiting, working vacation. And the first thing in America that I noticed was, like, I was pulled over. And because I mean, I exceeded a speed of, a speed limit zone, and I was pulled over. And at that particular moment, I didn't know what to do, because I'm coming from Europe, I'm coming from the continent.
Mhm.
What is the next thing for me to do? I didn't know. And I was shaken, because exactly like you say, all these stereotypes of images, of all the images that we've been seeing, at the end of the day, we keep only the negative ones. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we've been hearing these stories. A Black man is being killed every second just for even pulling out a handy or reading a book or something like that. But actually, the idea was for me, like, when I heard your position, or like, now, no, I'm very happy, because most of us are really uneducated. For instance, in such a circumstances, in a very small case, you're pulled over. What is it that you're supposed to do? And I think the information and the education is not only on the side of the police not doing their work, but also on the side of the civil society, knowing exactly what is their role, how can they contribute, when something happens, how do we react to this? Do you see it like that? it's a learning on the side.
The question, when you're asking me what would you do if you were stopped by police?
Yes, like I didn't know. I never knew. All right, I have to put my hands on the wheel. My hands have to be free. You know, coming from Europe, we don't know such things. So migrants coming from the continent, or even, you know, people just residing, or young people, when the police pulled you over, and what are the steps, just because of, you know, like I said, because of these images, how we supposed to behave? What is it that we should know? I mean, we're focusing on this because you are actually coming from that top ranking position. Normally, we're going to talk about the law and the governance, how we must get engaged and be more representative and more contributive in these roles. But for instance, just give us some, let me just say some tips on what to do when we see the police. Most of us are afraid.
Well, you know, unfortunately, like you said, coming from Europe or coming outside of the United States, well, all of the things that are on television, and as I said, a lot of the very negative things are there. Okay, so you said if you were speeding and you're pulled over by police, you just wait patiently, and you wait for them to come up to the car to speak with you. So it depends on different police department. I know when our police department stop someone for that, there's usually two officers. So it depends on, you know, where you're pulled over. And I always tell people you should always be pulled over in a lit area where you could see the police officer, you know, people could see you. And, you know, the police officers don't have any problem with that. If you slowly move into an area where you feel comfortable, that's fine. Unfortunately, like I said, when people see things of us, especially Black people, being pulled over and have a terrible interaction with police officers, they believe that that's the way it is with every police in every police department. And it's not like that at all. A lot of people tell you that when they speed, just like you said, you knew you were speeding. So you knew you were, you know, breaking the law. So all you have to do
Yes.
is be patient. And if you have to get a ticket, you get a ticket. But one of the most important things is just be very calm and just let the officer explain why they stopped you. And basically, you know, go ahead and have the interaction. And most interaction with police officers are not to the point where it escalates into anything. So you could tell me, how was your experience? How was your experience? You said you were pulled over. How was that?
It was very okay, very okay. This gentleman was very polite. I didn't even have the kind of fear if I'm pulled over
Right.
because in Germany sometimes, you know, because of the language, they just called. But they just did their job. They greeted me very polite. So I said, okay, normally this is a zone 70, but you were at 71. Then I said, oh, I really did not realize the road signs are different from here and where I come from in Europe. And it was like, okay, ma'am, we are not going to even give you a ticket. It's just a warning, and just you have to be safe by yourself.
Exactly.
So, and we greeted. I was with my seniors. We took pictures with them. I mean, of course, it's not that we just think every police officer is wicked or what. I've been pulled two times now, driving with my niece, and it was the same reaction. Ask questions and just introduce themselves and look at your documents. If everything is okay, then they wish you a goodbye and go.
Yeah.
Of course, Miss.
That's usually common. That's usually common interaction. Yeah, and most police officers, that it's a discretionary thing. Most police officers have a lot of discretion in how they behave and how they treat the public. So now you were, you know, he was very nice about it. You explained it, and it makes sense. And you say, okay, well, next time slow down. You know, don't speed. And those are kind of things that you do, you know, with people. But everything doesn't have to escalate to where we see it in the news when things get really bad.
Lawrence is asking a question. In community policing, what are ancient or modern practices that are very helpful to keep our communities safer in some way? Like, what are some of the things that we've learned to know that, okay, we could, it's a very difficult task. I mean, managing people, and particularly with regulations, we also as people are diverse in our attitudes and circumstances. So what are some of the ancient or modern practices that are very helpful to keep our community safer in some ways?
One of the things I mentioned before, I became interested in law enforcement, and I have been retired now since 2018. But one of the things that attracted me to law enforcement in New Haven was it was called community-based policing. Basically, it was you protecting the community and being part of the community. So a lot of ways that the police department need to understand is that you are supposed to be there for the community. All right. So you have to have a relationship with people within the community. During the time I was there, we started a mentoring program. Every year we would feed people. Our relationship with the community was like we had, I started when we had beepers, which now they don't even have beepers, but we have cell phones. You have cell phones, you can communicate with the community, you give them your phone number. You know, they can call you, interact with you. So when something happened in the community that requires witnesses or people coming forward, a lot of people in the community, when you're community-based, they call their police officer. The relationship is not like, you know, very, very, what's the word? Very, very angry. People usually come out and speak with the police officer. They have a good relationship with the police department. So that's community-based policing is what I would like to see more within a lot of communities, even here in St. Martin, where I am right now, you know, on the French side. The Dutch police officers are more moving into community-based policing, but on the French side, it's not even like that. People don't even have a relationship or like to have a relationship with law enforcement and police officers. So those are the things that we were talking about, some modern things. It's not modern to me because for 22 years, that's what I've been doing. So it's really strange to me that law enforcement departments throughout the world don't understand that community-based policing and having the community part of the police department is the best way to go. It makes it easy for the community and for the police department. And police officers understand that they are actually working for the community. They don't have that attitude like, you know, I'm above you. We work for the community.
Thank you so very much. I mean, this was just the introduction of who our sister here and her role captain in this very high end positions when it has to come with the systems and the law and governance. And the be there as an African American or a Black woman or African woman in that position is not something that we come about every day, and particularly in the police department. Or a lot of you know, these actions that go on, people just tend to fear, even in your families when you have a member that is a police. But is it only on the side of the community, or it's both ways, isn't it? Aren't you also afraid? I mean, like, this is a position that is really risky, not just from the inside me as a police, but are you also scared sometimes that because of the image and stuff like that, people actually are not building that kind of community and friendly relationship?
I would say that 22 years I was a police officer, I was never afraid. Matter of fact, the relationship I had with the community, oftentimes when you're by yourself and I get into something when I have to arrest someone and there's not another officer there, the community came to my aid. So you know, when you build a relationship and you work in a community, you don't have to be afraid of the community. Now, you know, I mean, I've been always very cautious, and I knew it was a dangerous job where, you know, you could go out in the morning and go to work and probably have something happen, but I was never fearful. And I thought if I ever got fearful of my community and people I worked with in my community, I would just quit. I left after 22 years. I only had to do 20. I stayed for 20 years, but it was one of the best jobs. I mean, I also was a flight attendant, which was a really great job also. But being in law enforcement was one of the most fulfilling jobs that I ever had. You know, I enjoyed every 22 years of it. Never been afraid. I've had some issues where, you know, I mean, I had to pull my gun, but that's normal. That's normal in a lot of things, because even if you're doing building search, you have to, you know, pull your weapon. But no, I've never really been afraid, and it was a great job. It was a great job. Yeah. Mhm.
Wonderful. Congratulations, sis. Of course, it's a great job. Like any other job, and your intentions are really good. Accidents do happen, we do know. And we're living in a world where inequality, both sides. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not only from the white side, even from the other side. So this is the reason why we have a community, we have a government, we have systems, to put it in place. If we are just only pro-white or pro-black, we would never have to build that kind of a world that we want to live in peacefully with one another.
Yeah.
So another issue is the law. Now we see even the Supreme Court judge is a black woman of the United States,
Mhm.
something that we never actually really saw. And we're beginning to see this kind of positions being occupied by women of color or African women. And you are saying we must. It's a responsibility that we should represent, because we are intermarrying. I mean, these both cultures, isn't it?
Yeah, but you see what happened is that we have to even see people who look like us. Because if you drive into a community or you go to a police department, if you get stopped, you'd like to be able to see you stopped by someone like you and represent you. When a
Yes.
phone call goes out, a 911 call, and the police officers show up, it'd be nice for you to see another woman, a black woman, who's a police officer. It's just a matter of making you feel comfortable and feeling that if nothing else, this person might understand and can connect with me. So that's very, very important. And also having the sense of have a cultural sense. Because I'm not just saying because I always be around black people, but I'm also very comfortable by around any race. All right. But it takes a training for some people who's never been around people of other culture. And that's, like I said, that's why we had a training, and I am an instructor on cultural awareness and diversity, because it'll be amazing how, we have a different way of behaving, and so does other cultures. And it's important, if you're going to be in law enforcement and you're going to be supervising and protecting people, you got to understand their culture and understand how they react to certain things.
Absolute. Yeah. But these days we see a lot of representation. I mean, if we look at even the votes in the past elections, we're seeing a lot of governors, women in position being represented. Just like in Rwanda, Rwanda is also, building that kind of a system on the continent where we see a lot of women are being represented in the parliament, in the police. When I traveled to Ethiopia, I'm telling you, from the time I
Mhm.
landed at that airport to going through the city and everything, everywhere I saw women pilots, being pilots or serving
Yes.
on the planes and stuff like that. So, I mean, we are still seeing a less of African women and leadership, particularly like presidents. We have 54 or how many, 55. We don't even have, apart from two, we don't know any other woman or female presidents on the continent. What do you think about that?
Female, you mean in Africa?
In Africa, yes.
I think it's about time. It's going to take a little bit, but I think it's about time, and that's why we're talking about empowering, because we can do it. I don't think there's any limitation. Just like you said, there's now a Supreme Court judge. We got a vice president who's African descent. It's something that we as a community, and I mean worldwide community, have to understand. Women's presence and their role in this world has always been very important. It's now up to us to prove that when we get into those positions, we also got to prove that we deserve to be there. That's very, very
Correct.
important, because now there's a lot of women who are now chiefs, which is a rank over being a captain. A lot of women who are now African American women and Black women who are chiefs departments. All right. So we have to also make sure that when we're out there, our presence, and that we're ready to be in that position.
Mhm.
And that,
Mhm.
again, I want to always go back with the education. You know, my education didn't stop because I became a police officer. I came on the police department with a college degree, but I also have all kind of training. I'm an instructor on different aspects and different things within the police department. I continue my education, so that's very important.
Wonderful. So, I mean, we Africa needs a lot of education and knowledge and empowerment and skills in every sector. And so that's why when we see one of us that came out from such a position, we know it's time, just a legacy given into the future. Do you look at it in that way? Like, what are you doing in this kind of department? Do you use your experience to empower women, girls in your community? What is actually your mission and your vision apart from just work?
Right, and the mission when I was there, like I told you, I've been retired, but I'm actually not retired because now I'm back home where I was born in St. Martin, and actually trying my best. Like I have the program, you know, the radio program Teen Talk on SOS Radio. So I'm also doing that to try to empower. So it's always important to continue to do what you need to do, and even if you reach one person or one young woman and empower her, that's important. I've mentored a lot of girls when I was in the police department. Some became fire persons, not even firemen. They became fire persons, some became police officers. But that legacy is always so important because we always got to make a way for our younger people. And we always, like I said before,
Yes.
passing the baton is so, so very important. Unfortunately, it seems like not just Africa, but in the Caribbean, like I said, we need to be empowering our young women a little bit more. I see too many of them having children at a young age and not continuing their education.
Of course, we know it's whether on the continent in the Caribbean or where an African is an African, and we have this cultural attitude. Particularly, the Black woman is really focused on the raising of children. So a lot of things really pass us by that we actually don't put some of this essence of career. But I want to ask, like, when you are giving, like on your talks, what did you say that radio was? Because we would like people to follow that program. And
actually, and yeah,
where
and
do you,
you
how
can
do
follow
you
it
air
on
it?
so many different apps.
Yes.
It's called SOS Radio 95.9. And you can go every Wednesday
FOS.
from 3 to 4 p.m. I am on there with Teen Talk. And it's basically, the program is geared around talking to teenagers, not just girls, any teenagers between 13 to 19, even a little bit older. I present information to them. We talk about self-esteem, bullying. We talk about careers. We talk about shadowing and becoming doctors, lawyers, pilots. So I offer a lot of information, and I talk to a lot of adults and what I call elders in the community to be able to empower the children. Yeah, but you can. The app is just go up on Google app, and you can do SOS Radio, and you can listen to it on your computer, on your phone. Yeah. So I haven't stopped. I retired from the police
FOS.
department, but I cannot retire from not helping and doing what I can to empower our women, especially in our people.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I'm just so excited because there is nothing that we need than skills and experience. Experience is the number one, because you going through that and giving back to us as a community, giving back to, I mean, not just only the young girls or but even to the elders, is something so magnificent, and we applaud you, and we would like to follow you. We would like to really mobilize our young people, elders, even from the continent. If you say it's worldwide, it's connected worldwide. And of course, we
Yeah,
would also like to partner with you. We would like to partner with you to know what times you're going on air so that we can share and mobilize the community to follow. Because particularly this topic of police
yes,
and their action in the community, particularly the Black community, is a program, is a schooling, it's an education that all of us need to, because the fear, the gap between the community action when we see our police. You know, we don't just trust them, we are afraid, because it's also very rampant. Let's face the fact about it. So, but now having a sister like you that has been in such a noble position, I mean, we would really like to tap into your experiences and to get to follow you and to like your show and to promote it and to give it more exposure that is needed.
Yeah, but thank you so much. But it's
when
really important.
you ask, what did it say?
I'm sorry, say it again.
On your trainings or on your radio, what is the feedback that you get from the community when you're addressing this issue?
It's very good, but matter of fact, I get a lot more feedback from elders. The elders love the program. They would stop me and say, "Wow, this is really." And I said, "You're listening to Teach Talk," and it's absolutely. So it touches the whole community. On things we talk. We don't just talk about law enforcement. I talk about a lot of other subjects that's really, really important to our community, especially our young people. Yeah. So, it's really, really important that we need to give back in some way. And this is like my way of giving back.
Absolute queen. There's just no perfect survival, particularly when we have a lot of experience, when we have a lot of knowledge. Anything that we have learned in every career that we are. That's why we're saying to build our communities, particularly our African communities. We need the skills of the diaspora. We need the experience and the knowledge of the continentals. So we bridge one another, because Pan-African Daily, we are watched at home and abroad and followed keenly. I see my young people already here saying, "Oh, we're watching the match, but we're going to watch this program because it's very interesting." And there are some questions. Where is it, apart from getting you on the radio, where can they connect with you? Do you do webinars? Do you do teachings? Do you do mentorship, or it's just only about the radio program?
Right now is a radio program. I didn't set up myself. I need to actually start to do a lot of training with police officers, because I'm an instructor. And one of the reasons why I say it's so important for us to be in law enforcement, because you got to remember, police officers are the front line and we're the first persons to the victim. So it's so important that we be educated, that we have to have the emotional connect with the community. And then police officers doing their job have to know the law. So a lot of the police officers are very versed in the law. And laws change if you work with government. Those are all things that if anyone who's interested in becoming police officers got to realize that it's just more than just being a police officer.
So, I mean, this is very crucial, what you said. What you said, I like it. I'm so sorry. I don't know why we're having some hintage and it's breaking, but I think in the other shows we're going to get. It's okay. We're gonna get, and feel free to call in the studio if you have a question, or you drop it in the comment section in the chat group. I'll bring it up to.
I'm sorry, unfortunately. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, we lost the Hello.
Yes. Can you hear me? Hello.
Hello. I'm sorry. I got a phone call. Unfortunately, that's what happens. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me too? You're not hearing me, but I hear you, and I think the audience is hearing her, isn't it? Can you hear our sister Patricia out there?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Hear you. Yes. I do. Oh, but I think she's not hearing me. You go out of the conversation and you connect again. Okay.
Wow.
I'm
sorry. Can you hear me?
I hear
I'm
you.
getting a phone call. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Can you hear me now? Are you hearing me? Oh God. Can you hear me, Sister Patricia? Oh no. Okay, let's just give her time to adjust herself. This is a very crucial topic, as you can see, it's address because the issue of police brutality, we're seeing a lot of people, a lot of activists going, individuals an opinion saying they have to defund the police because they are not actually doing their job. The discrimination between the white and the black police is so rampant. Every black man that is shot on the street or for unjust reasons is here to aid us, like being in the position as a captain in this very high end systematic professions. It is very hard for us to understand this. So getting one of you, or get a volunteer, or getting a sister or a brother to educate us on what to know about this profession. Why do some things happen? Why is there too much racism between the police department, between law enforcement? What is it that actually causes fear among us? Because this is also a very crucial a topic that we must address. But we are not focusing only on the African American community or Caribbean or Europe. If we look at even back on the continent, I mean, the police are so brutal. They, even before they ask your passport, even to ask a bribe. Okay, so it's really like, and she's here to empower us to say, no, we should not be afraid. This is a normal job like any other job, and that we need to be a part. I mean, we don't get it. We don't get it. Let me just refresh the stream and give her the position. Okay. It's difficult. She's really struggling. She's struggling. Thank you so much, Ono. Thank you. And I thank all of you that are here, because I know that there is a very serious FIFA game going on right now. Cameroon is playing against Brazil. These two, Brazil is a very strong nation, and it's happening right now in Qatar. But ICC, us here, numbers, I mean, this is really great. And we are a production, so even after the games, people who are not following the live broadcast would be able to go on the homepage or on our YouTube channel and be able to have access to this. I don't know, it's just unfortunate. It's really, I don't know, because of the topic or because of the connection, or I really cannot say. Yes, there's a lot. There's a lot on this topic. It's a very crucial, it's a critical topic. I myself, I had said, I would really love to get in touch with, a police officer to just get education and knowledge about it, because the fear between us and the police is the distance is so wide. I don't know how we're going to be bridging this distance, particularly us. Hello, are you okay now? I'm so sorry. Can you hear us?
Okay, sorry, I'm back. Wow, the connections is terrible. Yeah,
wonderful.
Sorry about that.
Wonderful.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault. It's okay. Here we are unapologetically. No matter what happens, we just understand, because all of us are here in good faith and we love doing our work. Now, coming back to your name, Sister Patricia, when I saw HELLIGER, and I just thought about German. This is a German name, like Helga. And I was like,
actually, if you've never been to St. Martin is Dutch and French. It's a little tiny island, only 37 square miles, Dutch and French. My grandfather was, I'm carrying the last name of my grandfather. He was Dutch. So it's actually HELLIGER. So it is, some may be German, but it's Dutch. My grandmother was from, or my great-great-grandmother was from an island that's a Dutch island in the Caribbean. So that's where that last name comes from.
Wonderful. I had to even find a way to be able to pronounce it, because it really sounds okay, Dutch, and not Deutsch. Deutsch is German, but Dutch is
Yeah,
Holland,
Dutch.
or the
Yeah.
Netherlands. Yes.
And in
So we were
Holland, I guess
talking
it was called
about the
HELLIGER.
issue.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Continue. No, continue.
Um, how do I get a situation like this, particularly this a situation? You say the law enforcement officer, as so like the community has to be also informed about the law, but we also have a lot of cases where these laws are being misused, abused, taken into their hands. Like I said, on the continent, the police would even beat you for asking for a bribe. Okay, like it's a position where people feel, I'm in that uniform, I have maybe the weapons on me, so I have the right, I'm in a powered position where I have the urge over someone. But that's not true, isn't it? Or how
Not at
is
all.
it?
And matter of fact, but there's abuse in everything, and we got to understand
So
it is a position of power, and if you don't know how to control that, that could be an issue. And then when you're talking about abuse and everything, most police departments I know in the United States, I can't talk for other countries because I don't know that, but within the United States, we have an internal affairs department. Basically, we investigate our own because sometimes people come into a position of power, and sometimes they get through the whole system, but they're really not the right person for the job, and that can happen. So I'm not going to sit here as a captain of a retired captain of a police department and said we don't have issues and police departments don't have issues with some officers. And thank goodness is not the majority of officers. The majority of officers who a police officer dedicated, they would give their life, because when people are running away from gunshots, we are running towards gunshots, and they protecting people and would jump in water and try to swim and rescue someone. So the majority of people who choose the job of being a police officers are dedicated people. It's not about the power. It's about helping. It's about helping people. And like I said, in every field, there are some people who should not be there. And that's why a lot of departments have a unit that basically makes sure and monitor those and make sure those people are not, those officers are not in that position. But the majority of police officers, I've met a lot of police officers in my department, outside of my department, are really, really great people. Wonderful, wonderful people.
absolute. It's just because one incident actually gives a whole
Yes.
a big picture, like what you're saying. And I'm just talking even to the audience. If we look at the proportion of the number of people that would call even for security, when something happens, when you're a danger, the numbers that you call, like last month there was a gun shooting or a gunman in a school, and before 20 minutes the whole campus was black out with police. And in that function, the police were not only trying to protect the school, but even the parents. They brought blankets, they brought water. The ones that are psychologists were already calming down parents down and giving instructions on what to do. I mean, it's a whole mega department as well. Like, it's not something that we must only look at the negative. Of course, the negative is there, which is why we must change. But we also must be aware of the fact that each time something is happening, we call the police, isn't it?
Mhm. There's some people who we say don't like the police, but whenever things get rough, the first persons or first people they call is the police. When things go bad, we are the ones that they first call, and usually we're the first responders. We're sometimes there even before in the ambulance if something happens. So our position as police officers are very, very important within a community. Can imagine not having police officers in a community and what would happen. All right. So that's like, just like you said, it's like they people be in trouble, but they will call the police. They might not like the police around them, but whenever someone is in trouble, they call the police. And most police officers, and a majority of them, I say 99% of the police officers, are the people who are dedicated to not just, you know, the uniform. They're dedicated to the community and to the people. I can't say much about it because I don't think, when I think about that 1%, to me as a police officer who shouldn't be there, that's nothing comparing to all of those officers out there who would give their life and protect the community and people.
Thank you so very much, Sister, for coming to talk to us about this. This is really a topic that we would, like you say, we need to train a lot, to educate. We also need to be represented, to be out there. A lot of us. Another question that I keep asking, okay, this, like, do they take into consideration in this profession the different cultures and backgrounds, mentality as well? I mean, I'm just talking about, for instance, I take a case study of a body language. The body language of an African is absolutely different from the body language of a Caucasian.
Absolutely. And that's why cultural diversity is so important, because as you notice too, and I know that you're pretty good with your hands. You notice I express a lot with my hands.
Yes.
All right. I talk with my hands, but that is common among my community and among who I live in, my culture, that we talk. But Italians also talk with their hands.
Yes.
And then, you know, when you get police officers in a community who are, for example, an officer who we would consider an urban society, who's been only around people like themselves, like white or Caucasians, and they come and they become police officers in a community where now you find Africans and Americans who are totally, the way they talk to each other. So we have a tendency, we talk and we're very expressive and we're very loud and we are very animated. Some cultures don't have that animation. So a police officer might see two guys on a corner expressing themselves and doing things and saying things, and they think it's a fight. It's not a fight. It's just the way they behave. And it's a cultural thing. So that's why that's so important that we are part of that, law enforcement. So we understand, because I easily would have said, when I was a rookie, when I first got on the job, and I saw that in a community that I patrol, with my partner being a white male, and he's seeing that, I was like, don't pay them no attention. You know, they're just showing love. They would be hitting each other, trying to play fight. And he thought it was something that we need to intervene. And I'm like, no, leave that alone. You know? So that's a perfect example where maybe if it was two white officers or two white males, they might have went over and thought that they're breaking up a fight. That's just an example. And it's a true incident.
That's fine. That's really okay. But it's like, it's fun. It's your passion, like you say, your dedication, the challenge of day to day, which is also what makes a job interesting or not. But now you're retired, you're in the community, you're giving back, to give your experience, to give your skills back. And where do you see the future, like the trainings you're giving? If you look at it today, did you say, I mean, in 2, 3, 5 years, 10 years, things are going to be more better than what we see today, isn't it? Or do you think we're regressing?
Yes, I am hoping so. But like I said, I left the United States. I mean, I'm so back and forth, and I came to the Caribbean. I'm back at home in St. Martin, where it's totally different. And I'm trying my best to intervene or to become part of the law enforcement here. For example, this last month I guess the 16th of December is Domestic Violence Month, and you know, violence against women and girls. And I've been talking about that, and I could talk about it on some personal levels in the sense of, as a police officer, intervening on domestic violence. You see what I'm saying? So I have a lot to contribute. I'm hoping that the law enforcement within the French and the Dutch side of the island realize my credential, because I have a resume that's no secret. But right now I'm just trying to find my way. I've been retired for a little bit. I'm trying to find my way, and I'd love to be doing training with police officers, because I believe that the training is so important. for officers. I believe officers need to be trained every 6 months on whatever subject. Training is always important. Educating, keeping up with what's going on is so important.
Wonderful. I mean, you're touching this program. We are also on the 16 days of activism against the gender-based violence.
Yes.
I mean, politically, it's particularly against women and children and elders and stuff like that. But of course, we do also know that violence exists on the other genders, on men as well. But you, like a police officer, because you're touching that point, what are some of the incidents that you've seen that actually happened? I mean, you're called up for a fight, you're called up, and even some kill themselves. I mean, can you just give us an overview, particularly in the fact that we're really paying respect to those that, for whatever reason, are going through this, to empower them, to encourage them, to inspire them? What are some of the kind of brutality that you've actually seen in this?
Well, one of the things, because of the domestic violence, I always try to tell people we cannot leave young people out of the conversation. Because oftentimes when we talk about domestic violence, we talk about intimate relationships, we talk about adult relationships, and we forget about the teenagers who are dating each other, where the violence, because the domestic violence is violence, abuse. We also always have to address that. And as a police officer, I always mention the fact of going to a call constantly with this Black woman, African-American woman, who has children, and she was always involved in domestic violence with different partners. And then she had a young boy, a young son. And I watched him. I was probably responding to this call to this particular home for about 4 years. I saw a child who was 10 years old become 14. And in the last call, I remember as an officer at that time, not a supervisor, because once you become a supervisor, you have limited time on the street and actually going to calls. But the last call I went there, it was a call that was something totally different from the usual calls, because this call now was about the son, who was at this time 14 or 15 years old, actually beating up the man who she was with, because he was putting his hands on her. And I had finally said to her, I said, this call we're getting now is turning the table, because whatever you're experiencing as a woman with a domestic violence, you need to stop it, because it's becoming a cycle. And I said, maybe the next call we get would be that your son had killed someone because he's protecting you. He's bigger now, he's older. And I said, you have to protect your children and it's your son, because he's not going to see you being beaten by someone. Now he's stronger, and you need to change this domestic violence that you're going through with your children. And I have to say, since that last call, I've seen a couple of times after that, things has changed with her, because I think she understood that now her children were being affected by what was going on. And I always like to tell that story, because the domestic violence is something we need to talk about. Domestic violence police officers are sometimes the frontline people that actually see the things that happen. So police officers have to be trained to actually identify domestic violence and abuse, because there's so many things that the police department and police officers can miss. So I also do instructions on a domestic violence kit, so officers will have everything that they need to see and understand when you get a domestic violence call. So yes, that was very important. I spent some time in the last couple of weeks talking about domestic violence on my program.
A very important point that you're talking about is the involvement. I mean, the third party that is affected because of this, the children. We see a lot of abuse in homes, age, that is being transported to the children, and this trauma goes on from generation to generation. How is it important, for instance, how can we avoid, I mean, like if a fight comes up between the man and the woman, it's really like difficult to say, oh, I have to first of all protect my children or take them into the room. The first thing, violence, that's the first thing. If we could avoid it, but now we are into it, what should we do?
Well, one of the things is that that's why I said it's so important. I think we as adults miss it because a lot of times I think in household, two parents think that it's just between the two adults. And sometimes the children are overlooked, no matter how young they are. They see the violence. And I always say that it's so important that we, in order to stop this violence and to identify it, I think we need to start with younger people understanding what we mean by domestic violence and abuse within our community and within our families. Because a lot of times, some children might think that's normal because we don't address it. Maybe even in school, some schools don't address, domestic violence, and they don't talk about it within the schools. So children are probably experiencing it at home and don't think that
Another,
there's a problem, and could think that that's normal behavior.
absolute. What do you think about parents beating their children? Because that's also an abuse.
Yeah, but that they call it corporal punishment. Some people, elders will say, well, my mom beat me, and and I turned out to be a great person, a good person. To discipline your child is to a point, but to discipline the child to abuse, and that children can also be abused when they're being disciplined. That's also an issue. And that's also things that we need to express, because you can discipline the child to a point where you can tap them on the hands and stuff like that. But there's some times where parents will go overboard. And that's also important, that we need to have a check within our community to decide what is good punishment, or what is, good way to make sure we can discipline our children. So those are all things. And as a police officer within the New Haven Police Department, we have a juvenile section. We deal with all of those things. Officers deal with a juvenile problem. We deal with parents. We deal with calls where children are empowered now to know, oh, you can't beat me. So they would easily call the police department to say their parents are abusing them. So we as police officers, you are the front line. Police officers are the front line with a lot of things in the community, and are there to be able to offer some type of guidance into what's happening within our community.
I have a question from Sister Sherry, is saying, what programs are set up for those being abused domestically? I think, this is not in your capacity, isn't it? But
No, well,
you're knowledgeable.
it was at one point, but like I said, I've been retired from the New Haven Police Department since 2018. When I was there, I want to also say, and people can Google this, the New Haven Police Department and the state of Connecticut had one of the most stringent domestic violence laws in the United States, meaning that it protects victims. So when a woman complains, or say she's been abused to domestic violence, you don't have to no longer be the victim and be the complainant, like we say, the one who makes a complaint. Police officers in the state, the prosecutors, become the person who makes a complaint against the perpetrator, which is huge, because a lot of times the women don't want to make the complaint, and they don't want to be the one to make the complaint, but we end up taking it over. You understand? So our officers are trained to identify abuse, because you will often go into a home where you're seeing that the person, there's a call that came and said there was a fight, and when you get there, everybody's calm, everybody's like, no, nothing happened. But we're trained to identify when we think that there's abuse happened. One of the things that was really important training is the fact with women. So a lot of people don't know, when you choke someone out, meaning that if you put your hands around and stop the oxygen from going to someone's brain, the eyes pop. The eyes are usually red. So oftentimes, if an officer is not trained to know that and see that, that could be missed. So officers are given a kit, which I also was one of the instructors in the state of Connecticut, with cameras, with different devices, measurement tapes, and what we would do, take pictures, especially when you're talking about people of our complexion. who's a little darker.
Mm-hmm.
When something happened to us, you don't usually see it, the bruise, until a few days later. So we also would like to have a
Correct.
relationship with the victim to take pictures of abuse later, of 2 or 3 or 4 days later. So I'm just saying that,
This
we as I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. Go ahead.
I'm trying to say that we as a community and a society have to know that law enforcement officers are also the first responders. And just like I said before, we are sometimes there before and everything else. So it's always important that they're well trained for domestic violence and to identify what domestic violence is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If you compare the United States where you worked and St. Martin where you're retired now, I mean, there's a huge difference in terms of these programs, in terms of security, in terms of even how it is.
Oh, I'm just seem to be getting a phone call. I'm getting a. Fortunately, when we do it over the phone, I'm getting the phone calls that are interrupting our feed.
It's okay. Did you hear the question?
Yeah.
What is the difference? If you look at the situation, being a police officer in one of the most, like you said, in Connecticut, where we had the high rates of gender-based or violence or anything of that sort, and you compare it with St. Martin's, what's the difference?
Oh, I'm sorry, I could not hear the question.
But can you hear me?
I don't know if it's a volume thing. Hold on one second. I apologize.
It's okay.
Okay, it's hard, but it seemed like a volume thing. I'm not able to really hear you. Sorry.
Okay. If I speak louder, like now, do you hear me?
A little bit. I'm hearing you a little better. Yes.
Oh, because we hear you perfectly, so you can speak if you hear me. You're very
Yeah,
audible.
it's probably on my end, and I put up the volume, but I don't seem to be able to hear you.
All right. So the question was if you can hear me. What is the difference if you look at the law enforcement or to send? Do we have the same? I mean, it's not the same standard, isn't it?
Well, I do apologize. I know you say you can hear me. You said the difference between, and it went out. I couldn't hear anything else.
All right. Difference between your position in America and sorry, and in St. Martin's. There must be a difference in the standard. For instance, are the structures the same?
Hold on 1 second. Okay, let's see if it's better now. Can you repeat the question?
She's been kicked out. Okay. Really, I also do apologize on her behalf. It's very it's disturbing when you're on the show and such things are happening technically, because particularly we see her and she doesn't see us, and it's annoying. No, she's using her phone. That's the issue. And you see when the calls come in, she lost the volume, and so it's not. We're rounding up the show because I think this subject matter is a hardcore. Now we see parental care, we see gender based, we see the root cause, we see there's a lot of things. I even see my sister Ayoka saying maybe yes, how they act and how they react, and so we should not be able yes to transfer it to the next generation. To be honest with you, Nkwame, I also feel this is too much shame that we're having such a very useful debate, something that we usually do not have, and the interruptions are coming up. It's really, really crazy out here. But you see, that's the point. We're talking about things that actually will work, or our own things. We have it. I think she's okay now. Sister, are you okay?
Yeah, I still you're very, very low. The volume is very low. I heard you say, sister, you okay? Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's a volume. It might be my phone situation. It's terrible.
Right. And I don't your phone.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a call, then you miss the volume, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you still hear me now or not?
No, I still can't. No.
Wow.
It's very,
What
very
did you do
low.
the
I
other
can't.
time?
Sorry.
And my
But
what did you
I'm
do
just
the
saying that
time
maybe,
that
yeah,
it
we
kicked
can.
you out?
I don't know if you can hear
How
me,
did you
but
figure that out?
can you hear me?
We hear you. We hear you. Your audience
Okay,
hear
but
you. I
and
hear
like I
you
said, I
perfectly.
faintly hear you, but
You know,
maybe we could continue the conversation on another one of your programs, because I really am trying real hard to get you.
all right, no problem. We are going to continue. Let's just say next Friday, or when you have time, I'll get in touch with you.
Okay, I can cut. Yeah, I
Yes.
can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to thank
right.
you so much. I know you can hear me, so I want to thank you. It's such a pleasure being on your program and meeting you. And you seem such a dynamic person. You're offering so much. Continue your quest. I'm really honored to be part of your program. And, you know, maybe we can continue another conversation.
Yes,
At another
absolutely.
time. And thank you so much for allowing me to be on your program.
Thank you too. Thank you much. I'll get in touch with you. I'm so sorry for
Okay.
for the technical hinge,
Right.
but I'll get in touch with you. Thank you. And bye-bye. We love you here, Mr. Pat. Wow. Okay. You see, I don't know. What kind of demon we saying is too late for that. But I enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did. I see your comments, and I know this is a very challenging topic, to be honest with you. I mean, the rate of this police brutality, the discrimination, the racism, the marginalization, the abuse of power. One can say that. I mean, we can turn around and play with the words, but it's fact. The fact is there that a lot of killings, the African American, the Black people in any community where we are. But like I said, the image of this profession is really something that we need to educate ourselves about. Because even on the continent, where we're Blacks, police still do that. Police really are still using their capacity to brutalize people, to arrest people unjustly, to ask for bribe. And if you don't give a bribe, they're going to take your books. If they're in terms of control. I mean, and on the continent, I mean, when we talk about abuse, that's why I like if we are going to our African community, from us to us, you see the role of the parents, you see the role of the family, you see the role of the community, the village, the compound in solving our own problems. Because all this kind of corporate punishment, if we had to give it or leave it into the hands of the police or a particular department, we'll be done. We'll be gone, all of us. So it is the responsibility of Africans to set structures that actually address our issues. But the best thing is if we just love ourselves, trust ourselves, work together, build our own structures that really work for us, that we don't have to struggle to want to learn the law of the communities in which we all are functioning. Then I think that already will be 60% of avoiding what kind of confrontation that we have. Because think about it, we're all humans. Be the humans wearing the police clothes, a uniform, or the woman that is the human that is a civilian in a civilian attire. We do all make mistakes. Issues happen. If there's an accident at a job site that the wall collapsed and killed people, people are not going to blame the wall. Everybody will just say that's an accident. And so in every community, in every job positions that we are in, there's some positions that actually accidents should not happen when it has to do with humans. But of course it does. Fire, abuse at home, we call the police. Accidents on our roads, we call the police. Most of the time, we are looking forward for their support. And we do also believe that most of the time we get the support that is needed. But we are not here to only criticize, but we are only also saying, how can we contribute? Contributing means we know who we are. Most of the systems that we're operating within, like we say, are systems that don't even understand our culture. And that's why cultural diversity in this workspace and in these professions is very, very, I do that. Yes, people use that as an abuse against us, and they just do anything they want to do against us because we talk about diversity. We are naturally loud. We are active people. Look at the way I always talk. My hands always have to conduct or do some kind of thing. We're not the kind of people that just speak like this. We're not the kind of people that are just so cool. The way we are, scattered people full of so much energy, and if they judge us from our body language, that's why. Like our sister Pat was saying, if you two brothers or sisters are just talking and having a nice conversation, and we used to give this hand thing, and they're like, oh, they're fighting. But it's so weird. I mean, even them in their own white societies and stuff like that, they play too. So why must we constantly be the one to always educate other races about our own cultures? So some things are adding up. We need to be human. We do understand mistakes happen. We do understand damages happen in any profession that we are in. But we are saying that we wish and we hope for a better relationship with our officers. Now you see, the sister was just here. To be honest with you, even though she's African, but if she dresses up in a police uniform, we're talking another language here with her. Okay, we're just going to be afraid. We're just going to be like stereotyping her, even though she's struggling. And in trainings to police out there, because she's been in a very high-ranking position and in a very highly developed country. Okay, so yes, we need to contribute. We need to play a part. All of us have a role to play. I want to thank all of you, and honestly, I want to give you the space because, like, she only had time today at this time for us to introduce this topic. That's why I really came live, because today you can see our audience is really, really not active here, because all of them are definitely on the FIFA games that are going on now. And we have two powerful nations that are playing. Cameroon is playing against Brazil. I don't even know how the scores are. If someone can update us here in the chat, if you know anything, if you're watching, you're following the games, what are the scores out there? Because we know Senegal was already leading and is progressing. Ghana, our Black Stars of Ghana, also we're progressing. And then our brothers from Morocco, they're also advancing. So now Cameroon is the one from the West African countries that, Africans are rallying to watch what is going on. Oh, Kevin Tendong is saying it's a 0-0 tie. Wow. Honestly, like seriously. Thanks for that update, Kevin. Thank you so very much. I mean, everybody was just thinking, Brazil would just, before the first 20 minutes, Cameroon should be packing her bags. The Lions, the mid-table Lions of Cameroon should be packing their bags and going home. No, that's not the issue. Today we are really, thank you, Kwame. Cameroon is drawing. How many minutes into the game? How many minutes left? Do we have hope? Who are the ones that have been tying up? We've been having this conversation here. You're watching and you're listening to us. That's very good. So, but of course, I want to give out a shout out to all our powerful teams there in this competition. We have seen some of the greatest, biggest teams that have been, nations like Germany is being kicked out. I think Spain as well. And which other country that we know? I mean, those soccer countries that we know, the big ones. And something is not adding up here. And most people are saying the FIFA games is actually, you know, exhibiting the new change that we have, the vibration. You know, the smaller countries, like they say, are the ones that are topping now. But the bigger nations, I mean, who would know that Germany or Spain would be kicked out in the first rounds of the games? These are people we usually would know, oh my goodness, they are already, you know. So you see, the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon are doing a very fantastic job playing a tie 0-0 against Brazil, against the big Ronaldo and all that. And it's just 10 minutes left. So they're definitely going to go to a 0-0. I'm so confident. And I know that the Lions are roaring. They are stepping up their game. It's just like the Lions of Senegal. We really are so proud of them. The Black Stars of Ghana, and also our boys from Morocco. And you know, one thing about this, it has not only brought another kind of a unity. Also, we saw, you know, Africans. When each team is playing, all the Africans are rallying behind, you know, supporting them. It doesn't matter whether it's Cameroon or Senegal or Ghana or Morocco. In as much as any team that is playing, all the Africans are just like putting on the same jerseys, dancing to the rhythm of the music. You know, some kind of connection. We really wish that it has to go beyond, beyond the soccer and FIFA games. We wish that issues like this, when they bridge us together, that we connect, not only after Qatar, and then we wait again for the next 4 years to come to America, you know, to play the soccer games and stuff like that. But it's a way that people connect. If we look at the population of Africans that traveled to Qatar to watch the FIFA, to be a part of the FIFA games, I mean, this is tremendous. And you can imagine the number of money that they buried in Qatar. If you look at the infrastructures, if you look at the tourism sector, if you look at the amount of hotels, I even had to hear, I learned from our correspondent out there that a hotel per night was costing, I think, $4,000 per night in Qatar. And so most of them would just like fill up, you know, or masses in a small room just to get accommodation. So that's how you see we Africans can also develop. And we have been talking about here and say, let us invest and come up with a project in an African Cup or African Liga, one African Liga, connecting the Africans in the diaspora and Africans on the continent. I'm still waiting to see that project come up. And if not, Pan-African Daily TV is going to start that as soon as possible. We have a lot of talents that could produce us so great talents on the continent. As you can see during the FIFA game, most of the teams are very talent that is coming up. Okay, so yes, thank you so very much. I think we would conversation for today, and I want to thank all of you that joined, irrespective of the breakage that we were having and the matches that are going out there, or the entertainment that's going here. Today is the beginning of a weekend, and I hope most of you will be taking your weekend off. I want to salute all of you and thank you for being so loyal. Despite what, whether you come in late or you come in earlier, it's not an issue, but you're here. Better let than go. So Africa Got Talent, yes. And I thank you, Marsha Lawrence, for connecting us to our sister Patricia, who is really a powerful woman out there in St. Martin's doing such incredible work. And that's a correspondence that we can really empower our youth, our people in the community to get such information, from such a woman that has been sitting on one of the most critical positions, which we know is, hey, what? Cameroon is ahead. Now I said it. Woo! Yes, you see, as we were just pouring it out and telling the Lions to go. Cameroon has scored. And there's not going to be anything. Nothing is going to change that. I can tell you. See, I crossed my fingers already. I crossed my fingers. It's going to stand like that. And I'm the only one in my family who kept saying that Cameroon is going to win against Brazil. And everybody was just like, come on. They're just going to carry their backs home and go to there. Yes, we're going to continue. and we would drink water and mind our African business. Yes. Cameroon 1, Brazil 0. I told you, the bigger nations, all these big nations, it's the same spirit that is going on today in the world. Now it's time for Africa. It's time for small countries. It's time for the less privileged. The world is turning. All those big superpowers, whether in terms of FIFA or whatever. No, it's time now for the little people to develop times are telling. I'm so happy hearing that. Woo! Pat football games. Yes. Brother Ernest, Brother Parker, let's work on that. There's too much money, too much connection, too much entertainment in sport. And if you look at Qatar, the whole thing was just marketing. I was only looking at it each time that I went to a project to look at it. I only thought about Africa, just like this is the Africa we are creating, and it's not going to take us, so much time to build the Africa that we want, like these nations. And one day we'll be celebrating, dancing a One Africa Champion League where one team would be representing. And we're going to get players in the diaspora and on the continent. So Pat TV can take up that. Yes. Thank you so much, Africa. Africa, the indomitable lions, the small Africa. Cameroon, as you know, is referred to as the small Africa, the Africa in miniature, with its beautiful cultures, irrespective of the conflict that is going out there. And we just wishing and praying for a solution to actually surface, or whatever way it comes. But of course, this win for Cameroon would actually maybe determine a lot in terms of negotiation, in terms of calling fire out there. As you know, the English part of Cameroon has been in a conflict with the French Cameroon part for the past 6 years now. Since 2016, there's been a lot of conflict going out there, causing a lot of death out there. So we just wish that if Cameroon would, for instance, win, this will actually water the conflict in that country, and that meaningful dialogue and a meaningful negotiation and a meaningful decision would come to save lives and to push up to the one Africa that we are creating worldwide. So yes, let these games and this winning bring our voices louder for change, justice, on our continent, and particularly in Cameroon. So yes, I thank you so very much. Like also Rwandan forces in Congo, these are not issues that we're supposed to win. So I look for a FIFA, not a FIFA, a Pat TV soccer games where we come to play for unity, where we come with different countries on board and we sit at the table and see how we can, move ahead in terms of business, in terms of justice, in terms of politics, economics, and everything. And in terms of entertainment. So I look forward to organizing a soccer festival. Okay, with a one, with a one team. Yes, with one. Yeah. USA for Africa. Thank you so much, reparations. Good. Yes, we can. Of course, we can. We're already able. We can? No, we are. I just don't like to use that yet. We can. No, we are. We are. We just not can. No, if somebody did not put us where we are, who was the greatest in the world? It's us. So we are. We not can. We are. Okay. Yes, someone would win. Let it win. And that victory, like we say, we are actually allocating that victory for justice, in Cameroon, so that we can enjoy a beautiful, a beautiful continent. Small means we are one and indivisible. Africans are home and abroad, and we're just praying that our different nations will find peace with itself and justice as well. So thank you so very much, sisters. I hope to get King Bongane III, the King of Embo, on this program tomorrow. I hope, like I said, because of the challenges in terms of power and the inflation out there is really, really crazy. We already feel it here, so you can imagine on the continent. So, but I hope to get him in case He's going to be our guest. I do invite you to join us. If not, then definitely we'll still get another guest here. Okay. So go and celebrate the victory of Cameroon. Celebrate the victory of One Africa. Celebrate the victory of a powerful Pan-African Daily TV. And we see ourselves again tomorrow. Thank you so very much. Bye. You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherlands calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.